Well, it's been a big 4 weeks where we haven't been with you, but we're back on AD and the MC. It's great to have you with us. AD, great to have you back. How's the arm going?
I've missed you, mate. I've actually missed you. I'm nearly back to full strength, to be honest.
To full mobility?
Yeah, so not far, but a bit of work to do still.
Now, you'll all be very surprised to know we don't have two Orvals on the show for the first time in a long time, although we had Fev in the last episode. And very exciting to have this man on because I tell you what, this is going to go a while. We've got some stories to tell. But I want to welcome to the show, to AD and the MC, Gary Wilson. Absolute pleasure to have you with us. I'm not going to run through your full job title yet because there's so many, but I want to start by saying it's very hard to research you because you type in Gary Wilson, there are 2 football players, there are 4 musicians, there's a historian, there's so many Gary Wilsons out there, you're hard to find.
That's because I like to keep under the radar.
Low profile.
Low profile, and that's good if you've done all your research and you can't find me. That's
I found a bit, but
you know him a little better than most. But let's start by saying this is a little bit of stuff you did. You joined the police force in 1984,
correct?
And you went into the Special Operations Group, or the Sons of God, or whatever you want to call the SOG. You've worked for the SWAT. You're an expert in terrorism, sieges, hostages, bombs. You've done bodyguarding for some pretty damn big names, some of the biggest names in the business, and you also do self-defence class for females. That's probably just touching the surface of the things you do. Is that fair?
That's it. Throw in Bounty Hunter as well.
Bounty Hunter.
Yeah,
we're going to touch on that as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Bounty Hunter in Johannesburg.
So it's taken him around the world doing that, you know.
Wow, I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff to get through here today, Gary. Let's start from the start though. So 1984, you join the police force and you get into the Special Operations. And from what I understand, from these elite forces, you've got to have something extra to be able to do that.
Look, you've got to have a strong mindset. I remembered when I saw a guy walking down Russell Street one time when I was thinking about joining the police force, and he was in black overalls, the guns, the black cap, and I went up to him and I said, mate, tell us, what do you do? And he says, I'm in the Special Operations Group, SWAT team, mate. And I said, well, what do you need to get there? He goes, you've got to join the force and you apply for it. And from that moment, I visualised it so strongly in my mind that I actually saw myself walking down the same street years later, whatever that was. So the mindset was then I joined the force, applied for it, and did whatever it took to get there. And
did you get there first go?
Yes, I did.
Which is amazing in itself.
Yeah. So it was roughly 2 years after I joined, I applied. And then when I did the course, I mean, I've done first dan, second dan, black belts in karate and going through really hard, rigorous stuff. That was like nothing of a morning on a 3-month, 24 hours a day part of the course.
Well, I'd imagine I actually worked once many years ago with an Army sniper from America, and he was a Navy SEAL, and he told me about the training there. And I know it's not dissimilar to the sort of stuff you have. They put you through mental disintegration, physical disintegration, is that right?
They did. Back when I did it in the 80s, you couldn't do what they do back then.
Yeah.
Now,
right?
Yeah.
Because
safety.
You had to have your hands this way, that way, like a mental robot. And if you put your hands in your pockets, one of the trainers, SOG trainers, had a cattle prodder and would just prod you in the groin area.
Hot or not hot?
Just hot.
Just hot.
and so if you weren't doing enough push-ups and that, you know, and just did that.
Oh my God.
You'd still get away with that these days, wouldn't you?
Isn't that how you brought up
If you're on the land.
Mitchell and Dylan, isn't that how you brought them
No,
up?
but it's given me a good idea.
But I got one at home. You can do it with the boys. You know,
It is scary. It is scary to think what you have to go through. Just picturing it, let alone doing it.
Do you think that sort of, sorry to harp on it, do you think that sort of training, obviously it gets you ready, but would you look at it now and go, they probably went too far, or do you think that's fair enough?
No, the way they justified it was, and how I see it today is, if you're running through the front door at night of a guy that's just shot 2 people outside and he's in there and he knows that you're coming in, he says, I'm going to shoot that first or second one, I'll get some of you because I'm going in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
To go from there, and it's not like the movies where you can just go, yep, oh, look, wouldn't that be cool, and jump in. You just think, right, I could go here, I'm walking in, my head could be blown off, haven't said goodbye to my family because this is just on the spot, we have to get there. Yeah. To go from that into there and then just to run in with adrenaline, with going left, right, and how we did it all, I understood why they put each one of us, the normal police force or anyone else. So mentally, they just did things where they just pushed you, and when you couldn't do any more, they kept pushing you again.
Yeah.
I mean, one day just rainy, cold day, just a track in an army base where we did it all, stones everywhere, where you had to carry steel grates, big sort of like railway sleeper in 2 teams, and we had to go around, and if one caught the other team, they had to go down and get cattle prodded and do
So now you're up against each other.
Yeah, against it, right? And then just thousands of push-ups until, it was bad luck. So you just had to keep going around, and then after a few hours of doing that, you're crawling with it on your back, and you're just sort of mentally trying to do it.
Did you ever get to a point where you thought, I just can't do it, and break and go, that's it, or not?
No, because I just thought there'd be other people going out before me, and even if I just gave them a little kick in the ribs or something,
well,
I taught them out of it, because then I knew that the less that were there, then later on they'd probably slow down.
What is the success rate of getting through that program? How many get through?
Well, so they hold one course a year normally, sometimes one every 2 years, and they might want to get a handful of people out of 12,000 in the police force.
Okay, yep.
But those that applied, when we applied, I think there was 100.
Yep.
And then you did all the pre-course fitness tests, which is where they take you away for 3 days and get you through your fears and see what you're scared of as a pre-course, like an entree before you do.
Do they take scary clowns? Is that included? Like, I'm shit scared of scary clowns. Would they have one of
If
those?
they the scary clowns, I don't reckon I would have passed.
But there'd be some blokes in there, I'd imagine, like yourself, like you. You're an intimidating figure knowing what I know, but not necessarily, don't take this the wrong way, I wouldn't be like, oh God, that guy's going to kill me. There must be some guys in there that you wouldn't even know it, they're just like brick walls.
Well, one guy, I won't say his name because he's still in the force and he's pretty high up. He was a man mountain. He was like 6'4", strong as an ox, and just looked the part, And he tried once and didn't get through the second week. And then he retried again a couple of years later and got through about, I think, 3/4 way through and just gave up again. And he was a tough guy.
Yeah.
And the reason was one of the, our unarmed combat one was they made us run on our knuckles across floorboards in and out of the way. And he used to skin his, we all had him skinned, but he used to skin his dome so you could normally see the bone. and the first time he gave up, and they knew that was his Achilles heel, so they introduced it again when he came back on, just to see.
That's a mind game.
This guy's complained about his
That's a mind game.
for the last few weeks.
Mate, I'm tired now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, we should get to. I'd love to keep talking about that, but we've got so much to get
no
through.
worries, mate.
But so we know you're now in the SOG, and SWAT is a relation of the SOG. So
it's the Victorian equivalent of SWAT, so
Right.
Special Weapons and Tactics in overseas in New York.
Yeah.
Special Operations Group in Victoria. You got your STAR in Queensland. And all that sort of thing. SAS, which is the Army equivalent over in WA.
So for you, you're in the 80s, and that period, it's a really interesting time in the history of crime in Australia, and particularly in Victoria. And so I knew you'd remember it, being here and being amongst it. So if you wouldn't mind touching on a few of those, the bigger name things you were involved with, because of course at that time, Walsh Street, Queen Street, Hawthorne, Kindergarten, there was a lot of big crimes that you were involved with.
I mean, the one that stands out is the Wall Street shootings, because on the morning that happened, I was at Russell Street to do an EOR, which is Explosive Ordnance Reconnaissance, on the Art Centre, because the Chuck and Die show was coming. Charles and Die.
Right. So that was just
It was a preemptor. And then, so we were there to do a quick EOR and just check it all, out and then red tape it off. And then we got called, and I was in there with Donald McLeod, who was a mate of mine in there. And so because we were explosive and bomb, they said that the cars that were in Wall Street, one in front and one behind, they didn't want to go near them because they thought they might have been wired up.
Wired, yeah.
So I shot straight down there. Did the checks that needed to be done on that, and then straight away they called us back to the office because they had an idea of who did it. So then we did all the raids on that. The funny side of that was I remember doing Wendy Pearce and Victor Pearce's house, and as we're running in, we shotgunned the hinges out and ran in, and later on in witness protection she told me, she goes, "Oh, that was scary." She goes, "We had a beautiful little budgerigar, and after that he was just dead." Because of the noise of the budgerigar just off the perch, yeah. So obviously, we ran in full force that time.
Well, I mean, one of your own or two of your own, when I know the police are very protective, as they should be, of their own. That really stood out, and it still does today. I mean,
What's 30 years?
I wasn't there. I was alive, but I wasn't there, and obviously to this day still know about it, and you still think about it when St Kilda play Hawthorn. They do the Silk Miller Cup.
Well, what we were told then was it was the most police ever shot in one time than Ned Kelly days when they had 3.
Wow. It's great,
and
it's 30-year anniversary.
What do you
pretty much. Oh, look, Sharon had just joined the police force, so it was a raw emotion for me because whilst we'd only been together about 10 months, she was a member of the police force, and it was like, this could have been anyone, you know. Everyone does night shifts and the afternoon shifts, so everyone's exposed to it. Everyone's vulnerable. These 2 poor young guys just happened to be the ones at the time. So I remember it absolutely, as I do with the Russell Street bombing and all that, because it's relevant to your life at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on the Russell Street bombing, where it just all gears back that I remember when you said that is, when I was in my squad at the academy, Angela Taylor was in my squad.
Really?
And then years later, she's going across the road and
the wrong place,
the wrong time. So that one there, we had to do all the escorts for the ones that did it. So it's a mixed emotions when you know that you got a squad mate, but then you had to take them from Jika into magistrate's court.
So for those of us who've lived in Melbourne, and there'll be people listening, watching this all around Australia, but particularly we're just focusing on Melbourne because a lot of your work's been here. If we took a map of Melbourne for us, we'd be like, oh, that's where I had my first kiss, and that's where I went to primary school. For you, you've got like that crime was done here. You must have a littered map with memorable moments.
That's right. Yeah. Queen Street. Oh yeah, the Queen Street massacre of Frank Vicovic. Running through there and seeing that sort of thing. Hoddle Street. Yeah. Just that's where Julia Knight was. Yeah. Kindergarten. Oh yeah. That's where the. It's true.
Does it take you back as you go through?
Every time, because there were big events. You don't think about it normally. I don't. But then going through and driving around, you just go, oh yeah, that was where we did witness protection, for Jason Ryan. That's where it was Wendy Pearce. Oh, hang on, this is where every armed robbery's gone wrong.
The memory, yeah.
And do you like take us to the Hawthorn one, because I find that fascinating as well. Someone holds up a kindergarten of all places. What a mad person! And obviously, what had happened over in Dunblane wasn't that long ago in Scotland, where that person had shot all the kid. Take us through, as an SOG, as you're about to siege, what's going on? Because we see it in TV and often cops say it's not quite what you see on TV.
Yeah, look, the memories from that one is that we were positioned so that we could see the offender, and he'd poured some sort of fuel and things on all the kids. They were screaming, but he had him in there because he had his, whatever he was doing at the time, a cause, and that's why he went and did it. But the thing was it really touched us because these kids were suffering, and we wanted to basically put the guy out.
Yep.
But the control and command, you got to wait for their decision.
Yep.
And they said, well, basically, let's flash him out, which eventually happened. So going through our mind, it's mixed emotions because, have a look at this, mate.
Well, the kids are vulnerable, aren't they? I mean, seriously.
Boom. But then they said, well, that could happen. But imagine the kids' psyche for years to go when all of a sudden here it is and seeing that happen. So you're going through a whole lot of mixed, but they're making the decision, so you just got to follow it.
But to that exact point, when you look at something like the Lindt siege, which was only a few years ago, were you watching that going, they're doing this wrong, they've got to take him out, they've got to neutralise him, or do you think they went about it the right way?
No, I think they went about it the right way.
Yeah, okay.
Because what they were trying to do was surround it and flush it out, which is what they do these days. Our days of being a cowboy and going in and, we shot more dead in 1 year than the whole New South Wales Police Force in 10, apparently. Wow. Just our little squad. But going back to the Lindt siege one, is that the sniper that was there was talking about, I can get him now. However, they were looking at how thick that glass was, whether it'd ricochet off, whether it'd go somewhere else, the round of the bullets, the whole timing of it all. But then obviously they made a decision, no, don't do this. Because you don't know, if he hits the ground.
It's not 100% chance of bang it.
Yeah, tilt switches and everything like that he could have on him. Running in there, and you're going to do it, it is chaos. Yeah. But and if he's sort of starting to, shoot people and that, you've got to act quickly.
Do you remember specific moments in your career, any that stand out in your mind of those split-second decisions you had to make, and you're glad you made the right one, or if you made the wrong one?
Yeah, there was a situation I was in where I was the bag carrier of money for the Victoria Police Force inside the SAG, where a group of men had kidnapped a a semi-trailer driver full of luxury cars.
Right.
They banned and gagged him, put in the boot of their car, and then were going about selling the whole lot for $130,000.
Cars and truck and everything.
Yeah, I had the 130,000. SOG mates were secreted in an area that we'd arranged already. It was dark night and ran North Melbourne.
So were
way.
you a legitimate buyer at that point, not a police officer?
Just plain clothes,
Yeah,
but
okay.
they're all kitted up, all the
Yep,
boys,
yep,
right?
yep, yep.
So my job was to go in there, let them count the money, you know, grab it and put the hand up in the air and give a signal so the boys could go. And the decision I made at the time was that, okay, that's all good, but then I realised, hang on, clouds were coming in, it was misty, it was raining, it was dark, you know, the boys were secreted. So when I did the signal, nothing was happening. And these guys were going, mate, you're handing over the money, you come to, you know, this sort of thing. And so, but what I didn't know was that they were trying to sneak up on it a little bit to get there rather than just crash bang, you know, so they could drive off or get away. So not knowing that, my decision was to keep that money because I was told, don't lose the money, Flip. Otherwise, it's your job.
That's the most
right?
important thing. Don't lose the cash.
Which in those days is probably 5.
And as I did that, because I had my handgun, you know, 6 hour behind my belt at the time, was that if I did that, because this guy had pulled a gun out.
Right.
And so my decision was if I did that, he'd be quicker to go.
Yeah.
But he ended up putting, it's in the articles, pulling on in my ribs and clicked the trigger anyway, you know. So, but the decision is if I had done that, I reckon I would have gone. So I had to remain calm and thinking, I'd do my self-defence with that gun coming, you know. But I was looking across, and it's amazing how you think you can do it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, this is going way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And how quick it was. So that's why, since then,
Wait, did it
every
go
day
off?
I just do...
It locked, didn't it, or it jammed?
Jammed. It was all there. But the thing is, and this is where the mental part of it all is, a lot of people go, I need psychiatric help. I had to organise a raid in the Hells Angels in Reservoir after that job. So when we went back there, I said, mate, you know, the bloke pulled the trigger. And Venny, who's Viper, says, what are you talking about? Mate, hurry up, we need you on the whiteboard.
It's like next job.
Yeah, the next job. So when you go in, and I reckon that's the best, because all of a sudden, I said, all right,
Can't dwell on something
next job, don't dwell on it. You know, let's get into this.
Amazing.
So decisions, you know, you got to make at the time.
Wow.
But since then, I've practiced disarming handgun from every angle, every day since.
Well, that's good because I've got it.
If you knew, if that was real, you would have been on your stomach laying there.
Yeah, I
you would have
know.
been disarmed and there'd be one at the top of your head.
I've been waking up going, what just happened? You pretended to. No, so while we talk about these high profile things, one of the most high profile, I say one of, in terms of a collection, when Underbelly came out, we're talking years and years of crime from the Mock Bell and all the brothers, the Morans and whatnot. You would have seen some of these guys up close and personal.
Yeah, Alphonse Gangatano.
Yeah.
We got the dogs, we call them in there, that put all the surveillance equipment in. They wanted to put some surveillance stuff in his home down in Bourne at the time. So because they were a bit jittery about doing that and who it was that they were dealing with, we had to go in and escort them in as they picked the locks and got into the home and standing at the front doorway, all kitted up, ready to go. And in the middle of it all, a car pulls up and we could hear it all saying, you know, Munster's come here. The Munster. The Munster. Because obviously you'd kind of pay, Alphonse a visit. And he was knocking on the door trying to look through. But if he had to come in, we were standing either side just...
That's how the movies. That's how the movies.
Like ready to go, and then all of a sudden, no, Alphonse is not home, so I better go, and nicked off again. But everything just went to a standstill stop. And then when he went off,
do you hear your heartbeat in those moments? Are you like
no, his heartbeat, mate. We got the guns, mate. No, we're fine. Because in all, the first job I ever went on, that was at night, and that's why I talk about going through that. And it was during the day, and it was Mad Dog Cox at the time.
Was that country?
No, this was suburban at the time. Collins. Rod Collins, one of the hitmen around.
Yeah.
They said he always was guns. He sleeps during the day. Night time he's always up in case there's raids and things. And it was my first one. And going through where I had to get through first or second, I think it was. My heart was through there because you're thinking, hang on, because we're going past windows here and we're going through that door there. But what if he's there and he's
eyeballs you.
Because you're thinking this. And once it goes in, we're running in, you're on adrenaline. But then years and years down the track, you're walking along. As you go through, you stop, silent field signals. Now, Hair Bear, did you realise you didn't put rounds in your gun when we did the practice of the SAS today? You've still got blanks there. Oh, right, really? You know? Oh, shit, thanks, mate. So load it up. Okay, stand by, everybody, and loads it up, and then, okay, you ready to go? Yeah. You just because you see everything like that, you know, and you're relaxed, you know.
So what was the vibe in that at that time? Because part of what I understand about the underbelly and what I've read since, you know, the police were almost shocked at how out there when Carl came in and started doing what he was doing. You know, the shooting of the Morans in front of the kids at the football, they were being really brazen, which was not unusual given what had happened, but it was a little bit unusual.
Yes.
It was in the public eye.
Yes.
Did you guys feel that?
I wasn't. You were out, yeah. I was out. So the guys that were in there would have, but like to me, I'm not surprised at anything. You know, done some jobs when I went out there where you can just see, like Johannesburg, I was telling you about. You know, where we're well told that they shoot people over there just for $1. You know, and you can just see that's their mindset. But you know, it certainly was brazen, and especially in front of kids at a footy match. But that's the way the world's going. And you could see just getting... Whereas beforehand it was more, yep, I'll get you and you get yours, families are out. It's just now it's just open slather.
Was it slightly simpler? Because at the end of the day, back then it was bad guys and good guys, and bad guys were doing this. Nowadays there's a bit more kind of... you know, there's religion that comes into play now, and there's a few nuts out there doing all sorts of things. Would it be different now for Soggies? Or is
it... Yeah, it's completely different. Like back in my day, for example, in the counter-terrorism unit inside of us, there was only about like 4 or 5 people. Yeah. And they were all more researching,
because there wasn't a lot of terrorism happening.
In the bomb squad, which I was being... If you're naughty in the SOG...
That's where you go.
That's where you go. But also you still do that. Huh?
Is that because you never get utilised? Because there's very few...
That was that incident with that run around with the handgun in the city. But,
right? So I was
told, the bomb squad bloke, you know, who's like the Marlborough man, he'd resigned. So they said, well, we've got to replace some. You know, no one wanted to volunteer to do that, but off you go. So we did Bandiana. And so anytime there's a device, you go out the bomb truck. And then when there's a normal SOG, you do the same stuff. So there was only about 2 or 3 of us in. Now I hear this.
I can imagine
the whole squad. You know?
Did you learn doing bomb? You know, like
detonation.
You'd be forgiven for thinking it's cut the red.
With 1 second to go. With 1 second to go and wipe your brow.
How do you learn to disarm a bomb?
Yeah. Well, this is it. You know, when people, I've got a daughter now doing year 12, and had a son last year doing it, and they're all nervous about their exams. And I keep thinking to say to them, mate, when I did Bandiana, and you're in there for 3 months, and you're learning about diffusing, you know, devices and mercury tilt switches and all that. But your final exam is they put a real live debt into something that you're going to do.
It's a pass or fail, guaranteed.
And mate, pass was you did it. Fail was a couple of little fingers. No, that was back before OH&S, you know.
OH&S, yeah.
But did you feel, I mean, sitting there, disarm, you said you've laid under a car before and disarmed the bombs.
Yeah, someone, Rusty's book came out, and some nutter had said, right, so this newsagent's selling it, we don't want anyone to sell that. So a car with some devices, you know, just outside the newsagent. So at night time, I went out there, and the bomb suit's supposed to put on. But when you get under the car, you can't really put the bomb suit on, you know, so you got to crawl under it yourself. And I remember being under there and just taking a few shots with the X-ray device, because you just time over target quick as you can. Don't want to be there too long. And then when I'm there, I'm thinking, hang on, this whole place is quiet and I'm a bit hungry, so you go around, you can pick any food you want. But I saw a policeman just directing traffic 2 blocks away, and I suddenly thought to me, I go, mate, I'm getting the same pay as this bloke who's directing.
You got a free sandwich.
Yeah, no, well, the funny thing, I went around the corner and there's a Fireys up there, and they got the canteen with the donut, you know, the coffee and all that, and my brother who's in the fire brigade was there, and he goes, oh, it's you. I go, yeah, and he goes, we were trying to work out who the wagon was. We're going to hose up and that. I said it was when I said, well, what do you got here? And he goes, we got donuts. Oh, thanks, mate.
I've been risking my life.
Can I drink water?
Mate, doesn't that put into perspective what these guys put up with?
It is. I have to stop while I'm talking to you. I could talk to you for days.
Yeah.
But you forget it's real life. For us, this is still like a movie because
It is,
it's genuinely like watching SWAT or on TV or whatever it is that we've watched over the years. But this is your real life. This is your life. You lived it.
Yes.
You've been in the situation with killers and murderers and rapists, and you've been, it's fascinating.
Well, the interesting thing was, because we did that so many times, and let's say we're at a function or a party and somebody says, oh, look, I'm a barrister, and oh, really? Tell me about it, mate. You know?
Yeah.
No. Tell us about. No, that's just.
Yeah.
That's, mate, you don't want to hear that. Let's hear this. You know.
Do you like hearing about 8-game washed-up football careers?
Say 7, mate.
All the time, mate.
We've had a few beers at the
All
footy
the
together,
time,
mate. And when I go to the footy with him, I feel safe.
Mate, I love it all, mate. I do. But that's the thing, yeah. So I remember when meeting, dates and all that sort of stuff. It's like, oh man, I love watching him play. Here he is. He's interesting.
Yeah.
Just Nick day before, been under the car doing all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh mate, don't want to hear about
So
that.
did you ever think about being a mechanic after that, given you knew how to manoeuvre underneath
No,
the
mate,
car?
I wasn't very good at. I only passed Bandiana because I got in and had a few drinks with the instructor, and he gave me the answers to the test.
Well, that's what you want. You want to pass the test you did.
100%, yeah, Victoria got 100%, no worries, mate. But then when it came to the real thing, you go, I should have studied a bit more.
Yeah.
So, just the old little robot,
But you guys are so highly trained. We talked about earlier the training. Have you ever had any moments where you've been like in a shop and someone's come behind you and you've just been like,
Yeah,
we're
all, you mean outside now?
Anywhere.
Oh, mate, all the
anytime.
time, all the time.
Someone comes on the wrong angle and they're not coming at you. You might think they're...
Say at home, and the wife sort of all of a sudden goes, excuse me,
Peripheral vision, mate. He's got the best peripheral vision.
Why are you doing that for? So it's just a normal reaction because you just, tap me on the shoulder or something. So now they just throw things at me from a distance.
Well, would you look at yourself and say that you're fearless, do you think? Or there's things where you've done that much training and you've put all that into practice that you are actually pretty much fearless?
Yeah, truth. I got asked that a long time ago, and I've got no fear on anything like that, right? The only thing that I fear is if something harms my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different type of thing.
It is,
I sort of worry about what could happen out there. But when I'm out there, So I always say you react to the way you've been trained. Train hard, fight
You've
easy.
seen all cop movies. It's all about the family.
That's
where they go. The bad guys go with the family.
Of course,
Protect your family.
Mate,
They're picking the wrong one. They're picking the wrong. I just
all
got
those tripwires around at night time.
just a couple of things. I mean, you come out of all this as a mind/power expert. Would you describe yourself as that?
Yeah.
And that was an important part of your makeup and being able to achieve it all?
So what happened was after I got out and in before it, I go through a technique every morning. It's called rainbow. So I go through the colours of the rainbow in my mind. Then I go to a peaceful scene from nature that I've been, like a waterfall, through the 5 senses. And then I got a little workshop I build in my mind that I go to. It's got a drive-in screen and it's got everything in there. And it's like a meditation, but it's like a technique that I learnt way back with these mind power guys.
Wow.
And that was what got me through the course and gets me through afterwards. So if I want to relax or want to achieve things or do things like that, I do. So some people just go, hey, man, just teach us it. So I can show them how to do it.
That's incredible because you like this, Shura. And again, I have to read for this quote. Gary Buchanan remains Australia's foremost expert in teaching people, particularly women, self-defence.
That's right. That's right.
That's a really good...
Where'd that start?
Yeah.
It started when... there's a few women I was talking to who said, oh, look, can you teach us some self-defence, and do all that. And they said, because we don't want to go to a karate school or a boxing school where there's all these,
techniques and
heavy people around. Is there any way we could do it just for women only? It was like the Fernwood Fitness.
Yep.
So I said, look, I can get a group of people, but, if you do that, the biggest thing I find is if you're really out there and someone grabs you, most people freeze up, from my experience.
Yep.
They could do it and freeze up. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll get a couple of mates to wear gear, and then at the end of the course, they can go out at night time and they can jump from a tree or come from somewhere and then see if they freeze up or they...
have a heart attack?
Or they apply.
You apply.
Yeah.
And a lot of them applied and some of them did it. So then you go back and say, right, now, okay, have a bit of a talk. Let's do it again. And you do it over and over again.
Were they angry or was any of them angry that you'd put them
Mate,
through?
some of them were that hard. I mean, I grabbed the suit one time and one of the blokes didn't turn up and I ended up getting the biggest black eye ever. They're just vicious because it's adrenaline filled.
Yeah.
And that took off. That took off because I believe that when I was in there training, realistic situations to put in rather than a clinical
Yeah.
dojo, you know?
Do you reckon, given where society's at today versus 30 years ago, there's more of a need for that based on the sickos out there, young girls getting murdered, even partners and wives, you know, being killed, etc. I mean, I panic as a father. I got Hannah as a 19-year-old travelling overseas, let alone just being out and about in Melbourne, without being alarmist and saying it's just out of control. There's enough signs that suggest it is a worry as a parent, and it'll never go away. Like, I would love her to actually focus on doing something like that. And I'm tipping it's something that you'd recommend girls to do.
Definitely. I think it's a lot worse out there because now, you know, they're going with syringes and you know, machetes and just attacking and just they see what's happening overseas because of all, you know, social media now. So they end up copycatting, you know, and it just seems to be prevalent. So something like Hannah, you know, most of the time the steps are that, you know, they've got to prepare first, be aware, always direct eye contact, especially if you're doing it all, because they like to pick a victim rather than, you know, a stronger target. Yeah. And if you have to do it, go for vulnerable areas, you know, the eyes, the throat and the groin, but it's how you do it.
Yep.
You know, it's none of these complicated moves anymore that some of them are still doing. That's good for sport. But basically, it's just really sharp, hard, get in there hard.
Well, you kick a bloke hard enough in the groin, you'll neutralise him pretty quickly.
Did that scare you? That's just that banks. I flinched. Did you
but you know, because we've seen it, Jill Marr, we've seen Marcel.
Of course.
I mean, it breaks your heart every time you see it. The world right now is, I think it's in a bad place and worse than it was. Yep. But you must feel good knowing you're making an impact in that world.
Well, yeah. Look, the more that you can help, the better it is, and that's a mission I've got, is to help others. If anyone asks any questions on it, I always guide them what to do. Yep. You know, I've got businessmen now that want a fortnight workshop to become like a James Bond or a black belt in that time, to spend the time doing it all. Yep. So you cut out all the bits and pieces and get it all there because they want to protect their family and kids. Yep. On the flip side, you've got the women who say, well, what can I do if us three went to grab them? And I say, very easy, you know, with a pen or something in your handbag. You're not allowed to have pepper spray, but you can go to the kitchen and make your own. Yeah. You know, little things like that you're legally allowed to do, and, you know, dehydrate it and get it down. So little things like that, little tips you can do. You know, but it's about empowerment. Yeah. It's about having that mindset.
But as a man who's been trained his whole life in firearms, how do you feel about them? Because, you know, in America, we know it's very different over there. Over here, you know, there are some on the streets, not many. Yep. How do you feel about them?
I believe that how we've got in Australia is good. Yep. Right. We were shooting every single day for 8 years, non-stop, or every type of weapon. When I got out, didn't really touch a handgun. Wow. Didn't touch a shotgun. A lot of people say you want to go shooting and all that. You know, it'd be cool. Haven't done it.
Didn't need to.
You know, I mean, for props and photo shoots and things like that, yes, but no, haven't.
Do you reckon you could go? Could you teach the Americans a thing or two? I mean, they're so blinded by the idea that it makes them safer when it clearly doesn't.
I reckon if you got on there and you had enough following, and you did it for a right cause, and people liked you, and you had a good simple message, of course you could.
Yeah,
of course you could.
Simple message.
Mate,
really, that underpins it, doesn't it? Do you reckon? It's a complex situation.
Oh, of course. And I'm not saying it's easy, and it's so set in their ways over in America because they've had it for so long and it's part of their constitution, all that sort of stuff. But as a man who's held the gun, who's fired it, and I'm not going to ask, but I'm sure there's been men and women on the other end of the bullets, but you know what the impact is. Yes. And the fact of the matter, as you just said, we are safer knowing. I feel safe knowing my next door neighbour or the guy I cut off in traffic or whoever doesn't have a gun.
Yes.
On the whole.
You know, and it's also drugs and alcohol with the gun, mixed cocktail. Mental. You know, they just go, bang, you know, this sort of thing. And later on, I didn't mean to do that. Yep. It's you know, and I think we've got it right here. You know. Yep.
So making the access to it harder, basically.
Yes, exactly.
And it does make sense. Yep. It does. It makes sense.
Now we've got so much I could talk, as I said, for a week. Like a couple more things I want to touch on with you.
Sure.
One, you're a bodyguard for some of the biggest names. I couldn't believe this list. You've bodyguarded for two of the hottest women, I think, in history.
Other than his missus.
Other than his missus. Helena Christensen, the Royals, the Pope, a few others.
Yes.
Bruce Springsteen,
the boss.
Yep.
Tell us about bodyguarding, because that's something different again.
Yeah, look, when SOG and the Pope came out, obviously with his Pope-mobile that he gets in, and you do the explosive ordnance reconnaissance to make sure that it's always safe before they get out. always driving behind, making sure you're with them the whole time. Lady Di in Prince Charles, the same thing. Always behind, going to the functions, making sure they get safe at Government House. Especially the Queen. Dan Quayle, Vice President, was one of them. Yeah. And then you get into the celebrities.
But you wouldn't have met. I would assume you wouldn't meet Lady Di. Like, did you meet them?
No. They knew about us, and we weren't to really talk to them.
Yeah, because they'd want to feel reassured, of course.
Charles wouldn't let us.
Near Diana. Hey, it's easy to ask for forgiveness and permission.
That's it.
But I would assume that, like, the Claudia Schiffers of the world, you're pretty up close and personal. The question is, and we've all seen The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston.
Yes.
Is it a situation where some of them are like happy to talk to you and some don't look at me in the eye?
Now, the best thing about someone like Linda Evangelista and Claudia Schiffer were they outside of the public. They were just so down to earth. Nice, love it. I mean,
that's the best thing about them. I could think of one other thing, but anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
for those that can't see, but anyway.
If you're listening, you won't be able to see. This is a photo of a very young and beautiful Claudia Schiffer, signed to Gary.
Lots of love.
Yeah, lots of love. Until we meet again.
Yeah, that's right. And the best part is because especially with Claudia, she went up to Sydney, came back to the flight here. She went to the hotel, coming through, and there was a big function. So, you're with them. And the bodyguarding isn't because someone might come and attack them. Okay? It's more that you're there to be the bad guy, to say, hey, look, Chloe's had enough. See you later.
Crowd control to an extent, but capable
but also I'm keeping them safe because I wanted to do that. And then after that, we were in the car, and I remember it's just her and I was driving, and then to go back to the hotel, and she says, I don't want to go back to the hotel. Do you want to go and see a movie? And I said, yeah.
Oh, Sean, Bodyguard. Real life flippers sitting back eating popcorn, drinking.
The Bodyguard. See what's happening there?
Yeah. Let's recreate.
And then sitting in the theatre, and I remember going back and I said, Flipper, because it was all the command. Whereabouts? And I said, I'm just at the movies. It was just dead silence. For a long while.
Was she incognito?
Mate, could you repeat that?
We didn't hear that one clear.
We're breaking up, mate. We're breaking up.
You're there sitting next to, the world's most beautiful woman, and she's just down to earth,
Wow. Sort of slipped in incognito. No one sort of knew who she was, whatever,
No, they knew who she was.
Reckon?
They knew who she was.
God, you had some pinch me moments in your life, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, that's right. And just things like with Linda Evangelista, going through one time, because I had an adjoining room, because for the bodyguard normally has...
As you do,
to gain quick access in case you're in trouble. I'm sort of sleeping one night, and also the phone rings. I pick it up. I said hello, and he goes, "Oh, hello. Who's this? Is that you, Flipper? Look, I'm trying to get on to Linda Evangelist. Linda. I go, who's this? She goes, Naomi Campbell. Yeah, right. Ring. It's Naomi. Really? Can you just knock on the door or just
roll over?
Get little things like that, like their friends ringing, and you go, hang on.
But that's a friendship group, so it makes sense, doesn't it? When you think about it.
Or the phone will ring and Linda, can you come in here? There's a noise. This is true story. So I get in there and I go, what is it? She goes, the fan above my bed is making noises.
So now you're a handyman.
Okay, all right.
Flipper electrical.
Now, do I ring down, which is easy, to get someone up there, or
Flipper.
I just
the red wire.
The red wire.
Cut the red wire.
Yeah, cut the red wire.
Damn it! That was such a
Well, that's fascinating. We can talk about that for a while, but also you've been a bounty hunter.
Yes.
And again, how did you get into it, and how does it work, and what do we not know about bounty hunting?
Look, a mate of mine from overseas, where a lot of the bounty hunting goes, who was in the Navy SEALs, got me to go over there, and a lot of the time, if they skip bail and there's a bounty on them to track them down, did a bit of that. And the only one or few that I did in Victoria was a crew in Carlton one time got stitched out of a lot of money. And apparently one guy from Johannesburg, he was down here, and he said, look, here's a US $100 note, put 2 bits of paper there, went like this, and it went to $100 because he poured a bit of solution on. Said, go to the bank, cash it in, see if it's real or not. So they went and did this Carlton crew, and the bank said, yeah, that's fine. well, what do we do? Well, the more you get, the more I can do. And so they got about $300,000, all US, put it into a bathtub of solution of all the different bits of paper on it to make it into millions. And apparently this guy just said one time, he goes, oh, look, I need a break. You guys hold it down. And he never came back. And they said, well, hang on, what are we holding down? It was all just fake bits of paper. He'd taken the real 300,000 and gone. So they employed me and another bounty hunter mate of mine to go over there and get them.
Track him down?
To Joburg.
Of all places.
Yeah. Mate, I was.
Did you catch
like
it?
a snowball
He got back anyway.
Well, you're still here to tell the tale.
No, well, that was the most dangerous thing I've ever been in. My wife cases after that, look, don't do any more bounty hunting work.
Yeah.
Because, you go into a laundromat where they were, and all these women are doing washing, and you say, no, whereabouts are these people? Looking for them. Next thing they're gone, and an army's surrounding you, and then you're up there
We don't know
sitting on chairs.
And
Do you know we can shoot you for $1 here, And then, with everything pointing at you, and you think, right, I've got to really think, because he still doesn't know why we're here.
Yeah.
Think out of here, You've got to talk your way out of situations. So little things like that.
You said
that's Liam Neeson-like, isn't it?
Oh, it's very. I'll find you and I'll kill you. You seem like we've talked a lot on this show, with Angry Dad and with his sons and daughter and whatnot about mental health and about their lives now and whatnot. You seem like you're in a fairly good place. You enjoy your life. You're happy as you can be. When we talk about all these things come up, all the things you've involved in, life and death situations. How did you get through that mentally? Because the mental health side of policing and crime work has to weigh on people's minds.
I just found that all the way through, I just sort of always joking around and had a sense of humour. Even through the course on different things, I was always taking the mickey or playing parts and things. And I found that for some reason, when everything's all tense, I just see a funny part in the situation, If the boss said, right, run back and give us a demonstration on the Remington 870p and all the braking parts in front of us and the whole group, and some guys would be nervous. I was up there, and if I couldn't work it out, I'd go, can I have some help from the audience? They'd all just make it a joke, and they just leave you alone, So when I got out, I just thought, well, what do I do? There's not many jobs out there for soggies or anything like that.
Sounds like there are a lot of jobs out there for soggies, to be honest with you.
I created them, I just thought, well, maybe I wanted to do acting.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in an acting course and did the beginners and the intermediate and mixing with normal people, having fun, and it just seemed to detune me doing that way.
Have we seen you in anything?
Not really, mate. If you blink, you miss.
And after all of
Kung
this...
Fu stretch just jeans.
Notice he said stretch back in the old Fabergé days. I'm tipping too. After all of this, his biggest claim to fame is, don't you? He didn't win it, but Cleo Bachelor of the Year.
You and Cleo Bachelor?
1996, was it?
I was in Cleo Bachelor in 2000.
I know. We're blood brothers.
Is anyone else here?
No.
No, I never struggled to get a Sheila. That's why I didn't have to go in it.
Mate, you love my brother. He goes, oh, man, I missed the cut. I was 51.
Well, the funny thing is they only tell you the top three, so the rest of us come equal 47, so it doesn't matter. 46.
Yeah, Rob Sitch was in there that time. And
that was okay.
That's a classic era.
Yeah, Rob Sitch, the guy now that's
Flip, you should have won by TKO. You should have 49 of them like that. And bang, it's last man standing.
No, they took the piss out of me a little bit because it was Jane Kenny was doing it all. And the first one, she goes, some of the comments out of the 50 bachelors, can you believe this? And the first one they read out was mine. And that is, so what are you doing now? Well, I left the SWAT team to teach women self-defence.
And they had a laugh at you?
Yeah, because they said, I must have made that up, Just to get more women.
And yet it's a massive market, isn't it, really, now when you think about it? Because why wouldn't you learn from the best?
Well, I was about to say, we've got to finish this off, but if people want to come and get classes from me, how can they do that?
Yeah, look, contact me on mobile or Instagram.
So your Instagram's
27,000 followers.
Is
Gary Wilson 007.
Gary Wilson 007 for those
His name's Gary.
With one R. Gary 1R. There's a lot of Gary Wilsons out there.
Yeah.
And they can sign up for courses, individual...
They can just send an email, give me a call, on the 007 number.
It's his number 007.
That's great.
Just come around with the 007 number, please. No, and what it is, we're running courses. If they want me, that's one package. Others are there. But, just taking all the nuts and bolts out of it all and becoming jet black belts or
Oh, mate, I find it fascinating.
assassin.
I know him really well, so I find it all fascinating.
You said to me,
you can talk for hours, mate.
You said to me, he goes, Shura, you'll struggle with this podcast because there's more than enough. And I'm getting to this point, we're 45 minutes in, I can do another 45. Gary, we're going to have to wrap it up. But I want to say that, like, you're a fascinating... How do we get you to the pub to have a beer and just talk through more of these stories?
Yeah, just eat a Viper or Flipper, mate. You just,
No, you know what?
send the bat signal.
And that is a really good point, because I talked to Dylan a couple of days ago about it, because we've been going to catch up with everyone, all the boys and that. So you come to that, we'll go to the pub, mate. I promise you won't move.
Do you not mind being the centre of attention for all these stories? Because there's just so much
my
to
wife
it.
said it happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're there and you're telling one and everybody's all listening around and then you're asking questions.
You know what we'll do? He won't know, but I'm giving him a tip now. We'll sit there, we'll have someone come in and pretend and just
Jump
go
from
like,
the tree.
and I guarantee you,
Groin.
before he even knows he's on the ground and Flip's actually tied him up and he's ordered a beer and the bloke's sitting there going,
Next one's on you,
Yeah,
mate.
next one's on you, mate.
Either way, we're going to have to get you back. We're going to have to get him back on just to talk about Claudia Schiffer for 45 minutes in the next episode of 18MC. Anyway, no, Gary, we really appreciate you coming on. That was absolutely fascinating. As you can probably tell, I was in heaven. You've already heard half of these stories before, and they're still
I
interesting.
can keep hearing them over and over again, mate. They're brilliant.
Gary Wilson's his name. Gary Wilson 007. Check him out on Instagram and get involved. And now we're going to head back into the Orville family in the next episode of 18 the MC, because we haven't wrapped that up nicely yet. We've had Dylan, we've had Mitchell, we've had Hannah. He's here every week. Next episode, Sharon Orville will be on. Gary, you might have to tune in for this one.
She's ready. She's got clear instructions. She knows what she can and she can't say, or she's out.
Well, she's going to be saying plenty when I tell her what she can say. Anyway, that's next episode of 18 the MC. We'll see you then.
Hey, Flip.
Thanks,
Good job,
boys.
mate.